wanted to ask you about the film editing for Indy. What a great movie. What was your approach to that in terms of storytelling for the editing?
What
was your approach to
editing it?
Yeah.
I mean, we all were totally informed by all the other indie movies. The body of work, we all immersed ourselves in it, watched it all repeatedly, again, and not having seen it too many times already in our lives because we're all fans. So you get yourself in that world, and then, very informed by the cutting that Michael Kahn has done, and the masterful, the whole over of his work with Steven Spielberg. So you kind of get yourself in that mindset and you're formed by all of that, and then you just have to make the cuts in the best place, like on every other project, and the project sort of tells you its own, the footage material's always got to tell you where you're going to cut, right? So you're going to find the best places that make the most sense as you progress through the process, but informed by that, that history.
What was your rubric for trying to capture the era in which the story was taking place? It seems like a lot of effort was put into creating scenes and props that specifically showcased the 1960s and how he fit into that time as opposed to his youth when he was like in the 40s fighting Nazis and things like that. Was there a specific list or series of ideals or principles that had to be worked in order to convey the era? Because you did a very good job of that.
Right. I mean, again, our set designer Adam Stockhausen is a huge part of that. Jim himself is a huge part of that. He grew up himself, in that period basically in New York. So he had a real strong sense of how things should be, sometimes down to like how the chicken wire and a safety window looks and things like that. So there's a lot of that kind of detail in his head.
But he went further. It wasn't just New York. I mean, like
right.
Gambling Den
in Morocco, yeah,
and the Greece, going to the caves. That was all period too, even though it was technologically very different from New York. But they captured it.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of credit goes to, again, Jim, who's got just a head for that kind of detail, and Stockhausen, who's an incredible, production designer, and just, just that Morocco set alone, the interior of that casino and stuff is an amazing thing to behold. I mean, there was a whole nother floor of rooms that doesn't even, you only see as they're passing by and things like that, but it was all built out to this, incredible amount of detail. It was just like beautiful, you want to move in, seeing that set.
Were you guys both involved in that specific portion?
Yes. Well, the tuk-tuk and that whole Morocco portion, Stuart was very involved in.
Yeah. But by the time I got to Morocco, I was phasing out of the chase because we did 2 iterations in India. So like the casino was an important part of the story as the beginning of the chase, but then we got right into stunts and things like that.
This is another amazing thing about that the sets were that evolved, considering that they even had to change the location, pretty late extremely late in the process. That wasn't much time.
2 iterations in India?
Yeah, so when we first planned that stunt, it was taking place in one location in India. And then I think it was when Dan Bradley, the second unit director, came on. We found a location which was in a city fort in India, which was quite different, and we mapped out the full chase again, and then because of COVID, that was off limits for filming, and then it moved to Morocco. And I was involved in the first part of visualizing the same stunts but in the new locations, and then it continued evolving as with Dirk and Clint for the fourth round, which is much more similar to what was on film at the end.
is there ever a sense of like being overwhelmed with all the moving parts that's involved in that? Because I mean, you mentioned this whole thing, so I mean,
Right.
is there any sense of being overwhelmed by it? Or?
Well, it was kind of nice that they kept us employed, and you know that's like the strength of Pre-viz is that you're there to iterate as often as they make a change, and it was great to do the stunts in a way that were convincing, so that the chase in itself was still working, and they just need to find a new place for it. But that's an interesting negotiation that the individual animators have to deal with, is putting their heart and soul into making the thing work, and then being told the next day, it looks great, and it helped us decide that we need it completely different. You know? But that's just, yeah, I mean, so individually, there are some animators that got frustrated at points there, but in general, that's what we're there for, to save them money finally when they shoot it the real way. So.
To what extent do you use green screen in this, and to what extent do you use AR walls?
Well, what you and Clint did was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's no AR walls in this movie at all. The set work, you know, you keep it to a minimum. Jim's the director that prefers to be on location, so anything you can get, you know, you do. And there's sets. I mean, you see, like even the wreck dive, you know, where they actually built the wreck. You could see the blue screen in some of the presentation. If you saw the panel, you know, like it's within a tank, and the tank is basically blue screen, but there's still like a set environment. You know, that's built around it. So no AR walls, like none of that kind of, you know, rear projection volume on this, and a minimum of blue screen as far as you can take it.
Which I think actually works out well, because I think it's so great we just do everything on location.
Try to, you know, yeah, as much as possible.
That's a nice thing about the franchise, is that they do at least get out of Los Angeles, you know, and make an attempt to, you know, get down to South America or Morocco or what have you. Yeah, that's pretty awesome about it.
How close are y'all with the stunt folks in those movies? In terms of like, say, doing pre-viz and everything, like how close are y'all with them?
In the case of the Tuk Tuks, we were working pretty closely when the second unit director came on. His name is Dan Bradley, and he's a legend, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was a legend, and then I talked to him a little bit, and he knew everything, and he had a very clear vision of how he wanted to use the Tuk Tuks, where the cameras were going to go to get the maximum impact for the stunt and the acting and things. So yeah, we had meetings, you know, several times a week, getting things to match his vision, and then it, you know, him working with the director and the editors to then fill out the first unit stuff was the other part of it. Yeah.
We work with them a lot also on, like, for example, the fight sequence before the Tuk Tuk chase, like inside the casino, was something where Jim was really, you know, shifting the beats and kind of working to find the best version of it up in the days just before they were getting ready to shoot it. So I actually brought a editing system onto the set, worked with the stunt guys while they figured out that stuff, and we made a kind of a cut, you know, like a stunt viz, they call it, like that. So sometimes we work quite closely, and then, you know, feeding that back to Jim on the main unit set and giving us notes and evolving it to the point where he was happy with it.
That's always really interesting footage to see, stunt viz.
Oh yeah, a friend that does stunts in Atlanta, and he
Yeah.
shows me all that stuff. It's amazing.
It's great, and I hope they don't take our jobs. But yeah, I love working with it. Yeah.
Sorry, guys, we have to wrap. Thank you so much.